is eventually what got me to Bentonville. Is got really into the product, was running around the country, just riding with people, racing, and just kind of this emerging board sport.
All right, Anderson, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
So, Anderson is the owner of Benton Wheel, not Bentonville Wheel. And then you also own, is it Benton Drones?
Benton Drones.
And then you also have a third company we just showed me,
Uh-huh.
a 3D print company,
Open factory.
Open Factory.
Yeah.
All under one roof.
That's right. Compact. We're very efficient.
There you go. There you go. So I kind of want to start with how you got into. You kind of told me as you're showing me around your shop.
Sure.
You were in the corporate like lifestyle, as everybody's probably been in there sometime. So how that all kind of transitioned to where you kind of are now.
Okay.
So like, did it start like college, or I'll just let you start? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start from that point. My background is in econ and finance.
Okay.
That's what I went to school for. And I pretty much after graduating in 2010, it was, I worked for the CFTC government. I was a data analyst. It was terrible. I left immediately. And then it was a bad time to be just quitting jobs willy-nilly with the recession that just happened and the whole financial world just upside down. And during college, I had heard about 3D printing. And now, as someone that had just left a job and unable to find another job, I was like, I've got some income and some time. Let me look into this whole 3D printing thing. And that kind of became like the gateway to, a 13-year career in working in all sorts of aspects of 3D printing, from, teaching people how to design and use 3D printers and other equipment to make things. I worked with Fab Labs, which is essentially an offshoot of an MIT class of how to make almost anything. And the idea is that how do we give normal people access to, power tools or extraordinary tools or computer-controlled tools, and see what they come up with basic knowledge of electronics, design, and fabrication. And then worked in academia for a while, teaching people those things, and ended up getting recruited for an opportunity to run a research lab for organ printing. And that's kind of what brought me to Houston. Did that for a little bit. Didn't decide to pursue a PhD. Ended up leaving and trying to, commercialize some of the technology we worked on. And that was going great. This is gonna be a pretty long, circuitous path, and it's gonna be the Cliff Notes version. But that was going great. And then I decided that some of the contacts I had made in the industry recruited me to move to another company in the Czech Republic. So at one point in my life, I actually sold all my belongings and was like, "See ya, America! I'm out of here," and had no plans on ever coming back. Long story short, that didn't work out, and I ended up coming back here.
How long were you there?
As long as my visa allowed me to be.
Okay.
And I kind of joined a startup when it was just launching. There was just a lot going on, and it was not a good time to have someone try to immigrate to a country in the thick of rapid expansion. I think when I joined that company, I was employee 60 something, and 90 days later, when my visa ran out, they were almost pushing 200 employees. So
Wow.
It was just rapid growth, and it was a little chaotic. So came back to the States, and along that, I was like just down in the dregs. I was like, I need to dig myself out. Circled back to my roots in the maker community, and ended up coming across this product called the One Wheel. They were out at the Bay Area at this maker fair, which is, it's like a show and tell where a lot of different crafters, makers, people that build things, they just show it off in like a big science fair. And that company was there with their Kickstarter product. And the moment I saw it, I demoed it, and I'm like, this is the future. Like, this is a crazy device. And the reason I mention that is that is eventually what got me to Bentonville. Is got really into the product, was running around the country, just riding with people, racing, and just kind of this emerging board sport. And along the way, ran into some people. I was like, hey man, you gotta come check out this place, like Bentonville. It's like, I think like Walmart's headquartered there or something. And I was like, Arkansas? Like, what's in Arkansas? And, the way they described it to me, it was just Arkansas. We all probably have this idea of what Arkansas is like.
Yeah.
And I was like, it can't be that great, but okay, it's like a 9-hour drive from Houston, where I was based out of. And I just went and checked it out. First visit, I was like, holy crap, like, I should live here.
Yeah.
And then I was pretty much sold the second time I came here. And I was coming here once a month for 6 months in a row. And the other 4 months was actually to convince my girlfriend that we can move from Houston to Bentonville and it'll be all right. We're moving from 5 million people in a city to 55,000 people. So it's a pretty jarring difference. And like, I get it, but I was like, there's no place like Bentonville in terms of just trails.
Yeah.
And riding one wheels on trails is what initially brought me here. And there wasn't a plan to open up a shop or anything. It was just like, I just want to be out riding all day. Like, luckily we moved here during COVID. So now that I left my corporate job, I can admit it, but I would be taking conference calls while riding trails and just, phoning it in and just living and enjoying it. And then, eventually I decided to leave all that behind and pursue more of the activities I'm interested in. And One Wheel was, a main driver to be here, but in the mix, during COVID, we all had a lot of free time. I was also very interested in drones because of the work I was doing with 3D printing. A lot of FPV drone companies use 3D printers to make a lot of the parts for the drones. It's a little bit of carbon fiber and a lot of 3D printed parts to make all sorts of, components. And so in the midst of all that, I jumped in and started learning how to fly. And that was about, 2 years ago. And that actually became more of a thing that got me to stay here. So One Wheel brought me here, and droning and then integrating with the community here is why I'm still here. And I think that's, a big part of it is the mountain bike community just kind of embraced me as like the drone pilot. And that it's just great. Like every day that we were out there, people are just stoked.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the camera guy.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting combination.
Yeah. So the Maker, is it called the Maker Festival? I mean, there was so much there I could start. I'm just gonna start with that though.
Like for the One Wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Float Life Fest.
No. The when you were at the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Called Maker Fest.
Fair.
Maker Fair.
Yeah.
So is that still going on?
It is the parent company, so Make Magazine is kind of the main driver of it. I think they're going through like a transition phase, and I think there's still small ones that are more regional. There's not a big, especially when with COVID, all the events in person kind of went away, and it hasn't came back since. So I don't think there's an official Maker Faire. Like there used to be main sites in New York, in Austin, in the Bay Area, and places like that. But I don't think that has made a comeback yet.
Okay, I guess I was so the guy who started One Wheel was it always off wheel, like off road, or did you kind of say I wonder if these things can go off road, or where was the introduction to off road, on road?
Yeah, I think initially it wasn't. The way that they position it, or a lot of these solutions of personal electrical vehicles is about last mile mobility. It's like, okay, like let's say you take public transportation instead of just biking or walking somewhere. What are other modes of transportation people can use? I think to take a step back, the motivation for how the One Wheel came about was the designer he's Canadian, super into snowboarding, was like on his way to work and was like, how do I actually get to simulate snowboarding when I'm here in California?
Yeah.
And he started designing it that way, and you can see like the progression of his prototypes, where like the first one kind of looks like a chainsaw. It's like literally like gear cogs, chain driven, and then it slowly gets refined. Now we're on our 4th generation. It's come a long way.
Was there ever one that was long like a snowboard, or was that too much off balance?
I think that was just too long, especially with one wheel and the whole pivoting mechanism of how you move. There is a limitation. I think, if anything, it's kind of stayed around the same size, and there has been more miniature versions that have come about. So the first one is just one wheel. We call it a V1 now, and it's kind of like what most people associate with a one wheel when they see it. Blue rails, wood foot pads, and just that giant go-kart tire in the middle. And over time, I think they've more refined it in terms of, okay, how do we make this more mass manufacturable and things like that. And yeah.
That's first I wanna go back, man. First I give you mad props. You've kind of been all over,
Yeah.
and it seems like even in your story you've all right, I'm struggling. I gotta figure out how to get out of this hole in a sense, and dude, that's some tough things, and it seems like you're like, all right, I can overcome this. So, mad props to you for that. So where are you originally from?
So originally born and raised in Maryland.
Okay.
So right outside DC. Grew up in Silver Spring.
Okay.
Yep. And then went to college at the University of Maryland.
Okay. There was some reason, I don't know why, I thought you were going to say DC. I don't know what it is.
I was gonna say DC, but I was like, let's just go with Maryland because everyone's like, you're not from, because you say you're from DC, people usually follow up with, like, whereabouts, and it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'm not. I'm like, I'm from Maryland, but it's like right outside DC.
So, so when you come to Bentonville, well, you mountain bike too, though.
I just got into mountain biking.
Okay.
So, you watch it enough, and you're just like, okay, like literally a part of my job is I just watch mountain biking film all day.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm like learning, and what really tipped me over is, Andrew, who you had on.
Yeah.
I rode his e-bike
Yeah.
for a week, and I was like, okay, my bike is broken because I need a motor, and I just went out and we did a group buy, and we got an e-bike, and now I am super hooked.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to ride all the time, and I'll be honest, like right now, I like walking out the door into my garage, I look at the one wheel, I look at the e-bike, and I choose the e-bike.
Yeah.
I can just ride all day. I can ride everything. I'm not like jumping or anything, but like I can go over everything. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. I will say, part of the motivation is I'm just trying to lose 30 pounds so
Yeah.
I can be faster on the one wheel. So it's like, it's all interconnected.
You're
I haven't left
you're
the
not a
one
big
wheel.
dude, though.
Yeah, but I can be lighter.
Okay.
So I can go a little faster, a little farther. Yeah.
Wow, so it's that much weight can justify it.
I think it helps. And, I'm being pretty aggressive with 30 pounds. I'll be good with 15. It's just like, if I'm like, I'm like 185 pounds right now. If I'm down to like 170, I'd be pretty happy.
If I got that to 170, man, people think something's wrong with me. But because I saw you guys out. We were trying to meet at Kohler one day, and literally I pulled in, you guys are pulling out.
Yeah.
So I just want to make people are like, this guy's a mountain bike, but yeah, you do mountain bike.
I do.
So when you come here, are you kind of when you first come here with the one wheel? People are like, what is this? Like right away, people are staring at you.
Yeah, but the thing is, you would think that people would be like, hey, you can't be here. But people are like, what is that? And then it's like, it is incredible that you just came down this trail. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on 2 wheels, and I'm already fearing for my life, and you're on 1, and I just saw you go down like a rock garden. And it's just like, yeah, I think people, think it's just for pavement.
Yeah.
And I think in the recent years, if you actually go and look at Future Motion, the company that makes one wheel, they have like the Super Bowl every year. It's called Race for the Rail, and it is all off-roading. And it's a mix, right? But they're going down like fire roads of like a ski resort, and it's kind of becoming, that's the sport itself. They call it like, everyone's trying to call it one wheeling. I'm actually trying to call it trail boarding. Just it makes more sense. You tell someone one wheeling, they're like, what? But then you tell someone trail boarding, it's like, I get it. Like, you get a better idea. So I'm trying to push that more as a term. But people are getting more familiar with it, especially here. And, we had briefly mentioned Float Life Fest definitely gave Bentonville a rude awakening of what's pretty much coming.
So here in Bentonville, is there like trails that you love it on and trails that you hate it on?
Okay, so the 3 trails that actually was like, I need to move here, in no specific orders: Choo Choo, Leopard's Loop, and Fireline. Those 3 trails are just made for one-wheeling.
Really?
Yeah. Like, Choo Choo, those switchbacks, you just start low, and then by the time you get to the exit, you're just up on the lip, and it's so much fun. And then now with that new climb trail, you can just do that over and over again. And Leopard's Loop, I think, on any sort of wheel, you're going to have fun on Leopard's Loop.
Yeah.
And then Fireline is just raw speed, just flying down the mountain. And it's euphoric.
Yeah.
Like, you start at the top, you're smiling, and by the time you're at the bottom, you're just, like, laughing.
How does that thing do on that return trail over there at Fireline, that new return trail?
It's great.
Really?
I mean, once they chip seal it, it'll be even better. So right now, you kind of have to, finesse it through the soft, a bit of dirt. But, same thing with Choo Choo and Leopard's Loop. Once it's hard packed, it's going to be really fun.
So that kind of led you to you don't have the shop when you first get here. You just kind of, you're like, babe, maybe I should like start a shop, start a rent.
So initially, when I first got here, a couple of the bike shops were, loosely affiliated with One Wheel. Gearhead was the first one to kind of reach out to. It was like, hey, I'm in town. I repair these things. Like, is there something that we can do together? And then Lewis and Clark, similar. Long story short, I don't think they really understood or saw the potential of it. So after having tried to collaborate on multiple, occasions, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. And then that's kind of what spurred, trying to find a location. Like initially, we wanted that building, right next to us by the KFC.
Yeah.
But the rent was just insane, and they wanted like a long term, like at least 3 year minimum.
Yeah.
And then luckily, we came across this place, and it just all lined up.
Yeah, for people who are wondering, we're at Walton and 10th, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, KFC's basically right next to us.
Yeah, 2 doors down.
Yeah.
That's a significant landmark.
Yeah.
KFC.
Yeah, so I forgot the recorder, me, the one piece that we need, I had to go back. I'm like, where? I didn't use directions. I was like, I want to find it. And I was like, oh, KFC, it's right there.
Yeah.
So, how far along that you're here, did you start get that established, or maybe have people rent them, or like at least borrow them?
Pretty much immediately, because I showed up here and I already had like 5 boards.
Okay.
And I'm always just trying to get people to try it, because everyone's like, I'm gonna crash, I'm gonna hurt myself. And I think it's one of those things where you show people it's pretty approachable.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve, but it's like that learning curve is maybe like 15 minutes. You're not gonna go out and shred trails in 15 minutes,
Yeah.
but you're not gonna just fall off of it instantaneously.
So basically, One Wheel is, and I'm not trying to like hate on you, but it's by the new Segway in a sense.
Yes, it's what Segway should have been.
Yeah.
So that it could have been more accepted and cooler.
Yeah, because everyone wanted to learn the Segway, but man, it's hard not to like goof around these people in the city when they got the neon vest on,
But I will say, thanks to Segway, they paved the way for a
Yeah.
lot of these personal electrical vehicles. Like all the legislation that they tried to like push through in terms of this should be accepted in all these places has definitely helped like the adoption and acceptance of these kind of PEVs is what we call them, just worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about that. Yeah.
They fought hard.
Yeah.
Like Segway is one of those examples of a technology that was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that also under the those bird bikes and all that kind of fall under the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess bikes, that straddles a closer line to, bike laws wherever in general now. But, like scooters, like all the other alternative non-two-wheel devices that you see out and people riding around, that has definitely benefited from Segway trying to push for the technology.
So, are you more now in present day? Are you more one wheel guy or drone guy?
I'll be honest, I'm more a drone guy.
Really?
Right now, I'm still. When I first came to town, I was the one-wheel drone guy, and then now I'm the drone one-wheel guy. So it's kind of flipped, and it's just, for me, there's just much more activity in the drone space for
Yeah.
me to work in this area. Like you watch Red Bull, and like there's drones, FPV, or the DJI Mavics and Inspires all the
Yeah.
time, and it was one of those things that I saw here. I was like, why is it just me flying? Like,
Yeah.
where is everyone else? And it's one of those things you find a niche, then it's wide open. You're
Yeah.
going to pursue that, just floor it. And the one wheel space actually recently got a little crowded. There's now like 5 resellers in town that, I think it's Groove, and then Gearhead, Lewis and Clark, and I think some other people are coming online, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather just ride them.
Yeah.
And then, most of these people won't be able to fix them, but,
Yeah. They
I
come
just
to you.
recognize that.
Hey, we rent these, but can you fix it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay.
So when did people notice you for the drone stuff, or were you just kind of like mess around one day and someone's like, "Hey, can you film me?"
I think the big part, I was just out there testing, and then I would just ask random people, it's like, hey, like, can I chase you? And that's kind of where it started. It didn't really get traction until Oz Shredders reached out. Greg, which at some point, that's probably another person that you should be talking to.
Okay.
He runs multiple Facebook accounts, but Oz Shredders, Oz Trail Kids are 2 of his notable ones. And he invited me out to the rail yard, and then that is when it was like, okay, this guy is like, he's here for us. Like,
Yeah.
let's try and like, let's work together. And from there, the community just started like I just started showing up to places. People would just tell me like, "Hey, like we're gonna go and hit this and session that. It would be great to get some footage." And it's one of those things where we all got GoPros, chesties, bike mounts. Someone's on the
Yeah.
trail with the phone. Those are great, but to actually capture a full run or actually pop up in the air with you, or just really give you like a unique perspective on mountain bike as an activity. I think FPV drone is probably the only way that you can get something like that.
Yeah, I think onboard GoPro. So for some people who don't know, it's kind of it'll be flat. Like there's flat. Like you're like you'll do it. You're like that was kind of a rough run. Then you look GoPro. It looks like you never went over anything. You know.
We call it the GoPro effect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's the distortion. It's like you're going so slow.
Yeah.
It's the smoothest terrain ever, and it's
Yeah.
just like you wouldn't know any better.
Right.
There's
yeah.
just no like contrast to like the environment.
Yeah, you can post to it. You can change the colors. It doesn't work.
You can't change that look.
Yeah. And I think the first time I saw you, you were out in Bella Vista with either Andrew or Jason on that new trail they just redid.
Bamboozled.
I didn't see you. But I saw this drone going through these like trees. I'm like, dude, this guy can freaking fly a drone. And you went down and came back, and I'm like, am I allowed to go on this trail? I thought they were filming some, and domino effect. Bentonville has a crazy domino effect. It all started with Paul Moore, led me to this person. Then I met you and this whatever. So it's great. I love it. But then here we are, and then So do you just like more or less like now tell people like, hey, for X amount, I'll go out and follow you around for the day, or is that something you want to do?
So that's one of the things I'm still trying to figure out with the business model. Because initially I was like, okay, you can book me, right? I'm a photographer. There's an hourly rate, and you book me, I hand you footage. That's it. That had okay traction. It wasn't the best strategy, just because at the end of the day, it's just who are you? I was too new, so that wasn't the business move to make initially. So I revisited the ideas, like, okay, like how can I actually build a viable business? And around that time, a lot of these one shots is what was coming on, going viral on the internet. So I think every time you talk about FPV drones, everyone always mentions that bowling alley shot out of Minnesota. And that dude is now the guy that if you see anything for the NFL, ESPN, or any sporting, he does all the footage of, flying down into the hockey rink, into the locker rooms, up to the sports booth. He's made that a thing. But I was like, how do I do that for local businesses? And that was what, slowly gave me like a buffer for like, this is a business that I can pursue of just really unique, dynamic one-shot fly-throughs of businesses. And we did a handful of those, for $1 rate. And that was kind of more the approach is how do I actually help businesses? Because businesses have money.
Yeah.
And tourists would, unsure about the quality of my work. So I think that helped me build a portfolio, as in like, whoa, this dude just flew through a bar and he just went underneath a beer tap and like through this guy's arm while they're toasting.
You've done that?
This guy's good. Yeah.
And that's sweet.
You should watch some of the videos on it. It was early on, but Rendezvous Junction was one of them. That was kind of the first opportunity I had to do that. And then we've done a couple other local businesses, a swimming pool, a metal construction facility, and that's still something I want to do. It's just, there's a lot of businesses can just benefit from a just unique perspective.
Yeah.
It's just, wow. It's just like, I can't believe, like, how else do you get a camera to fit through all these openings or small holes or gaps? And it's just interesting to watch.
Yeah. And then somewhere along the line that led to you doing the dual slalom. Mm-hmm. Well, last year was the first year, right?
Right.
And then did you just like say, hey, I'll be a part of that, or how'd that go down?
Yeah, pretty much. I think when they first started the idea, I was already just out there. And it's like, hey, like, can I chase you guys? And again, it's just, what can I do to show value to the community? Like, I'm not charging anyone anything. It's like, it's good practice for me, but it's also good content for everybody.
Yeah.
And that was kind of still the leading, principle is like, how do I actually do things that's just, how do I get people to not say no for me to just come and fly?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's good content for me that I can use. And I think Thunderdome Throwdown was like something that also helped solidify me as, a community resource. And, starting again April 14th.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that. And I think the unique thing there is I started to understand more about like people actually enjoy the perspective of watching. So that allowed me to experiment. So before it was just me flying, and then you would see the footage after. So what I started looking into is like, how do I actually get people to see what I see when I'm flying?
I saw that.
And then we set up a TV, and then you can actually watch live of me chasing people down. Because, for Thunderdome, you pretty much hit that first turn and you have no idea what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
And now you can just crowd up at the top, huddle around the TV, and I can get you from top to bottom. And then it was just a unique experience.
It probably helps out too. Whoever is like, all right, next go. You know where the next people are in a sense.
Well, we weren't that coordinated year one. Hopefully this year
Yeah,
we'll be
yeah.
a little more coordinated. Because that's the other thing too. Like one person, you can only chase so much because I got to go down and
Yeah.
then come back up. So by the time I come back up, they're probably sending a couple more people down. So, we'll probably get to it at some point, but I am trying to find more pilots and grow a team of people that we can do this. A big part of my push these days with the drone business is how do we do live event coverage?
Yeah.
Because again, if you're doing a mountain bike race, you can have like 12 cameras down a trail, and then you got to do that for every trail. Versus you can have 3 drone pilots cover the same distance and give you a unique perspective of what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 pilots would be cool. I mean, yeah, doing it by yourself, that's still amazing. I couldn't imagine. Like, yeah, how far did you go down? Oh, did you go all the way?
So the technology has also improved over time. As of last year, I could get down to pretty much just shy of the metal grates,
Okay.
the 2 metal grates.
Yeah.
I'd have to stop pretty much at the top one, and that's mainly because I'm at the top. We're going down a hill, and eventually, at some point, radio signals can't go through a hillside. I think if I was at the bottom looking up, it would do better, but that might be something we would try this year, maybe.
Yeah.
But also now that the technology's improved, we've got stronger antennas, so now I actually can go from top to bottom from the top.
How many drones have you crashed?
So the good thing is, most of my crashes were early on, and it was actually in simulator. So
Yeah.
if anyone is listening and interested in flying FPV, do not buy a real drone at first. What you do is you buy a real controller, just so that you're committed. It's like it's $150, just so you don't just like, oh, it's $20. Like I'm not gonna really try, and then $30 for a game, a simulator. And the idea is that these simulators pretty
Really?
much give you close 1-to-1 feel for how you fly, and you do that for at least 20 hours before you think about buying anything else. Because in those 20 hours, you are going to crash a lot, and you need to get a feel for moving around in space as a drone, and that's where most of the hiccups come out. Nowadays, now that I say that, I actually haven't crashed in a very long time, but knock on wood, and I hope that doesn't happen. But in general, as of late, it's not really a thing, and I think that also comes into the factor of everyone actually trusts me to fly around them. That's actually a big part of how I'm able to do what I do, is that I've actually been able to make people comfortable with pretty much a flying blender behind you.
I was gonna ask that. Have you had anybody like, dude, I can't take that noise?
Initially, some people were like, that thing is so loud, and I was like, it's fine, man. Like, if you don't want to be chased, just let me know. But the thing is, over time, those people are like, okay, you can chase me now. It's like, they just know that, like, it's good.
Yeah.
I will say that there are some people that do try to fly, and I'm just like, you shouldn't be flying around people. And, it's just fortunate that, I've had a good run with so many people and just a diverse group of riders that it's kind of commonplace. Everyone's like expecting that loud shrieking sound now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see you just posted yesterday a bunch of videos you chasing somebody. Yeah, it does, man. Like, oh, by the way, what's your social so people can find that?
So for Benton Drones, it's at Benton Drones, BENTONDRONES. For Benton Wheel, it's Benton Wheel at Benton Wheel .NWA.
Okay.
And Open Factory doesn't really have a social media presence right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the drones, but yeah, you posted something yesterday. It definitely makes everything look better from that point of view, like 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the what's it called? Thunder.
Dome Throwdown.
Yeah. So, do you think like do you ever try to go forward, like in front of coming? Is it always behind?
So I always go from behind because the big thing for me is I never want to be liable for interfering with a race. I never want a rider to be like, the drone was in my way. Like, that is something that, and that's why I pretty much stick from behind.
Yeah.
Unless we're doing tricks, and, it's like at the skills park or some sort of jump line where, you can kind of fly around them and get like almost like a 360 view of someone catching air. But yeah, if there's like actually something on the line, I usually do my best. Like, I'm already grateful the fact that they're just okay with this loud shrieking thing being right behind them. So in general for those kind of situations. Just never give anyone an excuse to be like, the drone did it.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. Do you now if it's not that event, but like just trails? Do you prefer some trails over another out here? Like if someone's like, "Hey, I want you to follow me," what trail do you want to use? Or is it like, it's what to you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm always looking to challenge my skills. So I always love it when someone's like, "I bet like you can't chase down this trail; it's just too tight." I'm like, "Watch this," and I just end up doing it. Like people think, when you think of drones, they think of DJI, like Mavics, like hovering around, and you don't have as much control. And for me, it's like when we're racing, when I'm playing that simulator, we're pretending we're racing, and I'm flying through these gates, doing backflips, corkscrews, and it's like I actually want to do that in real life. So any opportunity I get to pretty much test my skills, I get pretty excited for. So there's actually no trails that I will. Okay, there's one trail where someone's interested, Lone Wolf, over in the new G6 area. It's like It's like not even marked. It's like off the trail.
Yeah.
It's just trees.
Yeah.
There's a line that they carved up. I think that one might be challenging.
That's right of Dragon Scales? Yeah.
So Dragon Scale, people were skeptical. That was fine. There's some good content coming out soon.
Yeah.
We did some snow runs when it snowed the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like that's the thing. Like if it wasn't for a rider being on that trail, I would get so lost because everything's just covered.
Yeah.
You have no idea where the lines are. So that should be. And there's just tons of trees there too.
Do you think as you grow, you'll go back to your original business plan of someone like, "Hey, I want to hire you for an hour"?
I think I'm still open. I think people still just ask. But I think if anything, it's more event driven now. It's like, hey, I've got this thing happening. There's a group coming through. Come and film us. Because I think it's easier to get density of customers that way.
Yeah. So in 2021, I'm pretty sure it could be 20, the government somewhere passed a law. So you didn't think I knew anything about drones. That you had to be able to see the drone. You couldn't wear goggles. Is that true, right? Or some kind of thing?
Line of sight.
Yeah,
well, that's always been the case. Yeah.
But so how does that I don't know the full rules about it, but the only reason I know this is like a year ago I asked some guy to follow us around, and he's like, I have to get a whole new drone because mine's now in-opt because it's goggles and they won't let me use it when you get to so much airspace or something like that. So that's how I know that.
Right.
So, but you're goggles, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? If you just stay a certain level or what? Certain.
So
are we talking something illegal now? We shouldn't be explaining.
No. Oh, I think a lot of the restrictions, it just depends on where you're flying. And technically speaking, the drone is never like outside of my area of flight. So technically it's not as big of an issue. Because technically, if it was, then no one would be able to fly.
Yeah.
So it's not. I think it depends on the airspace that you're occupying that gives you those constraints.
Yeah. What's crazy is Walmart now has drones. You know that, right?
Yep.
I don't know what store, but I know they're testing them somewhere around here.
Yeah, and that's actually a big interest too. It's like you're almost like at ground zero of like this potential breakthrough in drone delivery.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it plays out. Everything that's going over in P Ridge is super interesting, especially for the drone space. And it's actually like part of incentivizing me to stay in the drone space to be relevant. Like this is ground zero. There's this giant corporation that's looking into the technology. There might be something there down the road. Because, for me, I'm always trying to find ways to subsidize my hobby.
Yeah.
So everything that I'm teaching myself, learning about drones, it's going to have some application elsewhere at some point. It's just a matter of having enough opportunities to connect the two somehow.
So if someone did the simulator, they're done. What's a drone you want for a first person?
All right, so the first drone you buy is an RTF kit. So RTF is ready to fly. It is not the same drone I fly. It's about a $250 kit. It comes with the goggles, a controller, and a very small drone. It's kind of fits in the size of your hand. And you start there because, one, you can fly indoors, and two, if you smash into something, it's like nothing. It weighs, like 50, 100 grams. It's not going to do that much damage. So that gives you a sensation of how it feels to fly a real drone. You crash that to Kingdom Come, and then once you're outgrown that, I usually tell people spend another 10, 20 hours on that. And then you start stepping up to buying, the goggles and the controller. I mean, a real drone that you start flying. So Simulator, controller, purchase a simulator, fly that for 20 hours, buy an RTF kit. So if you're gonna want a specific, get a Tiny Hawk RTF kit. I think it's $299 right now. We'll actually be selling some in the shop too. We're also becoming a drone shop in the same space. I need to buy spare parts. Might as well. Other people need to buy spare parts, and there is somewhat of a burgeoning community of pilots in the region, so it makes sense. There's nothing. The closest drone shop I looked was like Alabama.
Wow.
So, especially with 2 drone startups trying to do drone delivery, it can't hurt to help,
Yeah.
have a spot for, the community to look at the technology. And then from there, you go full on and buy, I wouldn't say go for a 5-inch drone. So when I say 5 inches, the size of the propeller. Don't do that, because those things are that's like buying a Ferrari out of the gates.
Yeah.
You want something a little more chill. 3.5, 3-inch props would be a little more suitable for, I think, slowly getting into it.
Okay. And then we were talking about GoPro.
Yeah.
Do you set now? Maybe you don't know this. Do you have your settings set as a mountain biker would set, or what's your settings on your GoPro?
So
20 frames per second, 24.
So right now, I'm kind of battling with essentially the end result of the GoPro footage, because social media just compresses everything to crap. So I usually shoot in 4K 60 at least.
Oh wow.
60 because you might want the option for slow-mo.
Yeah.
And then if I know for a fact that there's going to be some slow-mo, I might try to bump that up to 120 frame rate, but that might bump me down to 2.7K.
Yeah.
But the downside is you're shooting all this high definition content, but then when you go to somewhere like Instagram, it doesn't take that. And it
I
really
never
sucks.
thought about that.
What's that?
I never thought about that.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you don't get it to the size that Instagram wants, then you're going to get pretty much crap footage. It's going to be super pixelated. It's just going to, and it's maddening, because you spent all this time, you've got this dope footage, and it just comes out meh.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure that out. But ultimately, it depends on the end platform that you want to display your content from. So that kind of depends a lot on how you set up the GoPro. But in general, I'm shooting 4K, and then I'm doing a lot of post editing. So flat color, bit rate's high, shutter's auto. A lot of things are just auto, but I usually just leave it so that I can do most of my editing in post.
Okay. Premiere Pro, or do you use Final Cut?
No, I'm a PC guy, so I'm on Premiere, but I am starting to look into DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah.
One, it's free, and it's what Hollywood studios use.
Yeah.
And it's got better control for color, but it's a different workflow entirely.
I try to use that, and even though I'm very I'm novice as it gets, but I couldn't find enough tutorials on YouTube, so they were kind of spotty. So I just went to Premiere Pro, and there's thousands.
How long ago did you try? Because if you haven't tried,
it's 2 years, probably
okay.
2-3 years.
It's come a long way, but here's the downside. Now the tutorials, it's there. It's just an hour long.
Yeah.
So
really? Yeah.
So it's they'll teach you the basics, but each section is just a big chunk.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you just got to understand what the program expects you to do in terms of workflow, as in load media, edit color, or trim, things like that. And it's kind of figuring out the different software packages and how they want you to kind of work through the progression.
Yeah. Now I got so used to Premiere that I'm just yeah, I know it. And it does cost, but it's nice sometimes.
It is.
Especially before I had the camera all set up, like this is all connected now. Before that, you could just highlight and it would sync it all voices to the camera. I'm just
that's great.
And before that, I would use iMovie, and that'll pull your hair out, type stuff, man.
Yeah, I think I tried one day to use iMovie, and I'm like, this isn't working.
I tried to sync the video to the audio, and I was just micro changing it. I'm I'm never gonna get any of this done, because it would be good here, and then way down it'd be way off, and there was oh, you just gotta do this. I was I gotta find something else.
Yeah, it's I mean, just editing is just there's a lot. To do.
I was there were Mr. Beast. You know who that is?
Yeah,
he was on Rogan. He was talking about because I was like, oh, it's just a video, but he talks about how much detail if you more and more detail you go into, it's just it escalates that video so much more.
Hmm.
I mean, this is just a podcast, but like in a general sense of editing, like what you do is like, I guess he's like, man, we spent hours on just something. And
So
it's
one of the
crazy.
things about Mr. Beast, though, if you notice, all his content, it's not HD. It's shooting in 1080p
Really?
for YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's just much easier to work with, like a fourth the size at the least.
Yeah.
And in the end, it kind of looks the same because, let's be honest, a lot of people aren't watching things in full 4K.
Yeah.
So it's like, why spend all the extra headache when 1080p is good enough? Especially when everyone's on their phone,
Yeah.
right?
It's true. Yeah. I guess there's a fine line of how much quality versus like just put it out like more quantity,
Yeah.
or however
Right.
you want to put it. So do you think you'll have like a shop here, like, hey, I'll rent a one wheel, and then can you follow me on the GoPro?
Yeah. Everything, it's all like, that's kind of it. All the businesses kind of feed into each other.
Yeah.
Like, the 3D printing, things break on the one wheel. I can replace it with parts I design or accessories that we can sell or, drone parts. But people can show up, they can rent a one wheel, they can book, a hourly rate for being chased by a drone. They can, yeah, it's all
Dang.
interconnected.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then what was I gonna say? So on the 3D printing, how does that go into one wheel? Because there's a lot of weight in there. I don't know anything about 3D printing. All I saw was about a lot of machines.
Yeah, in the back room. So with the one wheel, it's another example that I've came across of, people using 3D printers as end-use products. Like if you go on Etsy and you type in one wheel, you're going to find a lot of people making all sorts of accessories, from board stands to wall mounts to fenders to handles, plugs. It's pretty interesting as someone that has seen the evolution and growth of consumer 3D printing and how most people are like, oh, like you see the lines, like this isn't a final product, to someone with a $250 printer off of Amazon is making, six-figure sales in little tchotchkes
Wow,
from their home.
that's nuts.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's really interesting just to see. And then, I had mentioned my girlfriend's business too. It's like I literally spent the past 13 years looking for killer applications in 3D printing. And, at one point, the apex of that was, we developed a way to essentially build the foundation to recreate human organs.
Yeah.
That's a long trajectory to monetize, but there's a huge upside to that. But then there's people just making six-figure revenue selling, the simplest of things because they have access to a 3D printer.
That's nuts. And all your printers look about the same size, right? Or roughly?
There's two sizes. There's, 8.5, or no, it's 10 by 10, 10 cubed or 7 inches cubed.
Is that like standard, like mostly?
Yeah, I'd say 7 inches cubed is about standard. I think at one point, the average size of most people's 3D print was like around 6 inches.
Yeah.
In like squared or cubed. And I don't think it's gotten much bigger, but, we had referenced
The
there
house.
is large scale 3D printing happening. Actually, there's 3D printing happening at the nanoscale and the mega scale.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, what 3D printing allows is you can just deposit material in 3D space on super teeny tiny or super mega concrete, all that. It's just a way of restructuring material.
Yeah, I've seen people are like 3D printing like guns, putting guns together in 3D printing. That's nuts.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned it. I think we were out at dinner, and at one point people were just, trying to learn about my background, but like literally the first 5 or 6 years of 3D printing, all people were interested in was, it's dongs, bongs, and guns. It's just like, with any new technology, I think the way you go about it is like, how do I like get euphoria from it? Like, how do I sleep with it? And then how do I kill someone with it? It's
Yeah.
kind of like the three precursors of like technological advancement. And then I come back like GPS was a military tool for a while, and then like, wait, maybe average Joe and Jane would like to know where to drive, and turn by turn directions. And it started with how do we target enemies to how do we get to Starbucks.
Yeah. I remember. So funny story you say that about GPS. So I was in Florida. No, I'm sorry, Texas, South Padre Island, spring break, and I missed my flight. My buddy's already there, and this story's wild. But in the lobby, and this guy's like, "Hey man, you going to the island? Because South Padre,
Yeah.
it's an island." And I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "I'll give you a ride there." And trust me, GPS will come in the story. And so I'm like, "Oh, my friends are there." At the airport, he's like, "Oh, okay, okay." And then so I get there, and there's one gate at this airport. I don't know if you've ever been. I know you live in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's one gate. Like literally, you get off the plane, the carousel's there, you're outside.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are they here?" And I'm like, "Maybe they're in the bathroom." Like they're not here. Obviously, they've
Yeah.
moved on. And this dude's like, he's just kind of scary looking, right?
Sure.
So then this lady comes up. She looks like Phoebe from Friends, and she's like, "Are we giving you a ride?" I'm like, "Who's this lady?" And then she's like, "Oh, that's my husband." So I just felt at ease. They give me a ride. And then, but she didn't. She's like, "I got lost getting here." And he pulls out this thing. He's like, "I got GPS." I'm like, "What the heck is that thing?" And it's like, it's probably a foot long, and it's black and white. And he's like, "Hang on, I got to get some signal here." And then, and I'm just like baffled. And then he's like, "All right, then we get on the wrong way." And then there was like some kind of like fair. He's like, "Oh, let's stop." I go, "What about me?" They're like, "Oh, we forgot you were back there, like in the back seat."
Yeah.
And I was like, then they use it and they get there. But yeah, I was like, well, I just saw GPS. Like, I got to see your GPS. My buddy's like,
What?
they're like, "Are you high?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts. Now look how like how much we use it now.
Yeah. For everything.
Yeah.
It's how we know how to do anything.
So is there GPS in drones at all? Like, is it tied in a lot?
So a lot of the DJI drones, the reason that they can hover is they have a GPS fix.
Okay.
That's how it knows where it is in space. And then for FPV, for the most part, not really. At least not for the drones I fly. But you have the option. And why you might want it is similar reasons. Is let's say you're going super long distance, and you forget which orientation is home. GPS, you can flip a switch and it'll direct itself and try to fly itself in direction of home. But for what I use GPS for is just speed tracking. I just
Okay.
want to know how fast I'm going. Like if I'm chasing something, I just want to know like am I locked and matching speed, or it just gives me like data that I wouldn't have otherwise. But I'm not using it to like hover in space or not or anything like that.
So GoPro has like a GPS where like you put something in your backpack, right, and it just kind of follows you, right? Or they still, I don't know if they have it anymore.
So the only one I know that definitely does that is Skydio. They have that beacon, and it is GPS based.
Okay.
So it's trying to lock onto that signal and then figure out best way to track that signal.
Okay, there's a guy, a YouTuber, mountain biker named Nate Hills. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he rides a lot of like out west open stuff, and he'll show him, and he just has like they're riding, and it's just this drone just kind of following them.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what he had there.
It's a Skydio. I used to have one of those too, and that was before I got into FPV because I was like, who's gonna film me?
Yeah.
Right. Like so. Downside there is a lot of the trails here is too tight coverage. Like you need that
Open,
west wide
yeah.
open to at least get the best results. Because the closest I got was Fireline, but like I was always like looking over my shoulders, like is it still with me?
Yeah, yeah. How would you know?
The sound. It's
Well,
not as loud.
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still some sound, and then eventually like you hear nothing, and then it's just out there like lost.
Yeah.
It just sits there and like, oh, I lost you. Like at some point, it just couldn't track you anymore, visibly or with GPS.
Okay.
So the technology is it's way better. Like the Skydio is still the hands down the best like autopilot on the market right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are those running?
I think $1,200 just for
Okay.
the drone.
That's
And
not
I
as
think,
bad as I thought you were gonna say.
No, I think the full package that you'll eventually want is about $2,500, and that's
Okay.
like extra batteries, the beacon, the controller, all the accessories.
I know some people that do airsoft, not around here. I guarantee they'd want to use you. I'll
Yes.
reach out to them.
Yeah, I would love to do paintball. Like that's another thing too. At the end of the day, I'm just a cameraman.
Yeah.
I'm just able to position a camera in a spot, and yeah, we can use that for anything.
When you do a mountain bike, do you like low rear tire, or do you like right by the helmet?
I like low because it also gives you a sense of speed with the contrast of the ground. Because if you're up high and you're looking down, it's just like same thing, GoPro
Flat.
effect, right? It's just
Yeah.
like what? But then like if I'm right there behind the tire and the dirt's kicking in your face and it's just like I don't understand how he's so close and not hitting this guy. It's just
Yeah.
like you're there and you get a sense of like everything.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. So, do you have any events coming up? GoPro, like for the drone?
Let's see. So I was involved with the Southern Enduro and just kind of running around
Yeah.
and chasing people, and part of that was getting footage for them for the follow up, video edit after the event, the recap, and then I also use that to sell clips, and that's kind of revisiting is like an event based approach versus random Joe and Jane hiring me. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm at a place, you're about to rip down these 7 stages for this enduro. I try to talk with everyone. Like I'm out there practicing the day before, and then I'm trying to get a sense of, what are most people excited about, and then plant myself out there to hopefully sell some clips. And if not, we just get some awesome content that we can use for recap.
Okay.
So I think Redemption Enduro is coming up
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
couple weeks. So I need to figure out the logistics behind that. But we're
Have
working
you
on
have
that.
you been to Eureka yet?
Yeah,
How is it? I'm supposed to go Sunday.
it's awesome.
Really?
Sundays should be really good too. It's incredible the amount of trails you get there. Yeah, you're gonna have fun.
Okay.
If you've never been, like I went there initially to One Wheel, and we won. Like there's a race out there every year for the past couple of years, and it's just so much fun.
Do you think you're gonna put on any one wheel events?
So for me, I think there's a couple handful of events that are already established in town,
Yeah.
like that race at Passion Play, and then there's Float Life Fest, which is coming back in September.
Nice.
So I mean, I'm gonna help however I can with those, but what I'm doing is bringing. There's a whole underground circuit for One Wheel, and I'm actually starting that here. A part of me being out there biking and filming everyone is to also survey all the trails, because as I'm riding, as I'm flying, I'm like, this is definitely one wheelable, or like that is definitely not one wheelable. As I'm like, there's be like 3 people that will go down that rock garden and hit that lip and things like that. So I'm doing research as I'm doing all these things, and then the One Wheel Underground is based on Strava, so segments. And the funny thing is, you might have seen the sign in there. There isn't the activity One Wheel, so we actually use ice skating as our sport
Really?
for segments. So if you open up Strava and you see like ice skating on Leopard's Loop or All American, that's One Wheel.
How'd you figure that out?
It's just one of those things. Like I think at some point the community tried to reach out. It's like, hey Strava, like we really want to use this app, and they're like, who cares? Or
Yeah.
there's not many of you. So we're like, okay, like what's one sport that will never happen on these trails? Ice skating.
Oh, okay.
But then, with all the winter as of late, it's possible.
I thought you like use ice skating because it like in a sense it's very close of what we're doing.
No, because then we should have used snowboarding,
Yeah.
which I also think we should do. But I think I did see that someone did post some snowboarding segments. Because I think I remember seeing people skiing, drop the hammer at some point when it snowed last year.
Really?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's probably one of the few spots that you can actually make something happen.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
come off that and a little dip.
Have you done it? You gonna do? You
Uh-uh.
think you'll work up to that?
I think that's a goal. Like
Yeah.
my thing is, my hands have never been more important for like my living.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm like, I don't really want to get hurt, but I do want to progress to a point where those things are, commonplace for me.
Yeah. Crap. I had a one wheel question. Oh yeah. Do you ever get? You don't have to go into detail, but do you get hate on by mountain bikers at all out there?
Honestly, out of all the time I've been here, there's only been one instance.
Really?
And I think it was just a
That's
dude
good.
trying to be cool with his buddies, and he just said some stuff, and I was like, whatever. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, no. Everyone has been like, that's awesome, and super cool with just seeing us out there.
Yeah. I think so. In my experience, e-bike was before one wheel. So like first you're like, what's this? You didn't like hate on the guy to let him ride, but you're like, that's never going to come around. And then it came around. It's full throttle now.
Yeah.
And I think one wheel's right on the cusp of that.
And then now you got the EUCs, and
Yeah.
then you got, I think the only area I maybe see like a flag coming up is the mountain boards,
Yeah.
the long boards, just because those things are throttle based, and
Yeah.
you can roost, like you can dig up and tear up some things with all that.
A new guy who was trying to patent like a certain one of those. I don't know whatever happened, but yeah, he was trying to patent one of those mountain boards.
Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of the gripes that come from is like people think the one wheel will actually damage the trails, but in reality, if you see a one wheel after it's been soft and muddy,
Yeah.
we're smoothing out all the
Yeah.
ruts.
I was gonna say I seen your tires. No, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way. We're not digging anything up. We're actually improving the trail by riding it. Like, the funny thing is trail builders are actually interested in it because they just built a berm. Easiest way to pack it is
Yeah.
just to roll over it with this fat go-kart tire.
I was wondering if like you're in somebody's way, you're like, get out of my way, one wheel. If that's ever happened.
No, not really. I usually like my thing. I always try to tell people is like we're like privileged to be here. Like we're guests. Like
Yeah.
you see this list of things that are allowed on this trail. Like you see how we're not even on it.
Yeah.
So like just do whatever you can to
Yeah.
like never give anyone a reason to be like those darn one wheelers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean no. I hear someone coming, I just get out of the way because like a bike, especially coming downhill, is going to be faster than one wheel or most one wheel riders.
Could you do a one wheel on Here's Johnny, or have you that trail?
Sections of it.
Yeah.
I didn't do the rock sections towards the end. The wooden bridge, yeah, tried that. It's not as sketchy on a one wheel as it is on a bike.
Yeah.
It's scary on a bike. Although it's been rebuilt, but initially
Yeah.
when it was sketchy and like just off camber, coming around the trees, it was just, and you're so high up. And that's something I still get like trying to get used to on a bike is I still have like the one wheel mentality as in like I can't do that, but it's like
Yeah.
I have a 29-inch wheel. I can go over anything. And then the flip side is this bike is also like 6x the size of a one wheel.
Yeah.
It's a lot more to like account for as
Yeah.
you're traversing trails.
Yeah, one wheel, you're like, you just hop off real quick.
Yeah, you just bail and just like it's good.
Yeah, a bike, there's a little more thought into it.
Yeah, you gotta like figure out like how do I actually get out of the bike?
Just think if, I mean, I got clip pedals.
Oh yeah, clipping in. I'm like that's a whole nother like layer of like, yeah. What do you do when you panic?
Mine are like real loose.
I see.
But there's still times I've it's not been good.
I've crashed as many times on a bike as I have on a one wheel already, and like I've only been riding for like maybe a couple months.
Dang.
Yeah, but nothing too bad. It's just a lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like it doesn't balance itself.
Did Jason and Andrew get you into it? Like, hey, just try it out, or you just kind of tried it on your own?
Nah, I think it was a big part is them because
Yeah.
like me and Andrew are pretty much out there riding as much as possible, and then we try to pry Jason out of the paint booth whenever we can.
Yeah,
like,
he
that
loves
dude-
it.
Yeah, yeah, we all love it, and I think the fact that it definitely helps. Like, I mean, a big part of me is like I don't want to ride alone because in case I eat it, it's like someone needs to call
Yeah.
EMS or something. But yeah, I think a big part of it is just riding with people, and I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's got a bike now." It's like, and now we're all just riding.
Yeah.
Like a part of me is like, do I even film anymore? It's like, yeah, who knows?
No, we're gonna need you.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely give you a shout. I know I got some buddies coming to town. There's no date set, but
yeah. Keep it posted.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, if I ride hand cut and there's no one out there, I'm like, all right, either I ride real mellow because I mean you're out there.
Yeah, you're out there.
Yeah, so I'm just like, and I was like, so I usually ride mellow or just ride the same trail. I'm not messing around.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So have you ridden mountain bikes by yourself, or you just always stay with somebody?
No, I have because at some point, but it's just at this point I've done like Slaughter Pen and Kohler so many times.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. Like
Yeah.
I know I'm good.
You get complacent here. You're like, people are like, oh, you've ridden here, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you would think so. You would think so, but there's so much around you, and you're like only a couple miles. Why? I don't. It's hard. You
Yeah.
want to try other things or go other places, but it's hard when it's so close.
And that's another thing too. With the one wheel, there's only so much I could do. But then with the bike, there's trails that in the past couple months I've never set foot on. And I've just biked on. I was
Yeah.
just like, wow. Like there's sections of Kohlers where I'm like, I've tried it on a one wheel. I'm like this is awful.
Yeah.
Like I remember Esther's. I'm like, why did I do this? Because there's only like one exit once you get in the loop and you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
committed. And it was just too chunky. But now you just kind of pedal through it. I will say e-bike totally helps explore.
Yeah.
And now it's like to the point where, in the past, before it rained, I pretty much did like 75 miles in 3 days. Like I'm just
Wow.
hooked.
Yeah.
And like now I'm like trying to go down from turbo and like I'm in eco just to get more battery range.
Yeah.
And I'm just out there riding.
What's your like go-to trail? You more Kohler and trail? What trail?
A little bit of everything, really. Slaughter Pen is always the easy one, and a lot of us. I'm trying to figure out my tourist routes, just because at some point, I think with the one wheeling or the biking, I might help Andrew out with the tours, or I might have my own one wheel tours. Is just figuring out good loops that we can do for various, whether it's a bike or a one wheel. So I'm pretty much out there trying to come up with combinations of loops that I
Yeah.
can take people on all the time. But yeah, I'd say. I try to mix it up, but it is a lot of Slaughter Pen because I pretty much live 3 blocks away from here.
Nice.
So-
Yeah, try to work up to Rock Solid over at Kohler.
So I just took it the other day because they just built it,
Yeah.
and Rock Soft. Like I'm not. Yeah, it's a little sketch.
Rock Soft is actually, in my opinion, worse because that You come around. Well, I haven't done it since they redone it, but you come around. You're like on that ledge at the
Yep.
very end. That part's scary.
So when I was coming down, you can either go on the inside or the outside, and there's that rock drop. I almost went off of that not knowing that it was coming. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was a close one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Rock Solid is like, I don't know what it is since they changed it, but man, it was rocky and chunky, but it wasn't like, it just didn't feel like you're gonna go off the edge to me.
Some of the gnarliest I've ridden is Ponca.
Yeah,
That's when my derailleur got destroyed.
yeah.
And
I haven't been out there yet.
that's another one. That just the upper section, I was just like, how is this fun? Like even on an e-bike, I don't know how people do it on a normal bike, and it's just like it was a lot, and that was maybe a month into really riding, and then Andrew was
That's
just,
a big step.
It was huge, yeah. And the crazy part is we did all this crazy, ridiculous, like rocky gnar, and then we're coming out on this green path. I hit a stick, just jams my derailleur, bends it upwards.
Oh, I saw that video. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
that was me.
Oh, okay.
And that was literally 6 days into having a brand new e-bike.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it was like, everyone's like, that was like a 1 in a million hit.
Yeah,
I'm like, I should have gone out and bought a lottery ticket or something.
yeah. I had I just bought a bike off a buddy, and I went on the trail. I was like, yeah, super excited, and some kicked my derailleur, and it literally went like 90 right into my back wheel, and I was flying. I was like, what? And I wasn't on clips then, but I was just like, I was like 2 miles from my car. Just had to walk it back.
Oh. I'm just glad it was at the end, and then luckily we made it single speed. And then
Yeah.
we got out of there. But it was closer to the end.
Yeah.
But it was just like, we literally did all of this, and it decides to break on the stick. I just rolled over it. Like, it wasn't even at speed. It was like just a gentle roll and just hit it just right.
So did you learn a lot at Ponca, like better riding, or you're like, I'll never go there again?
No, I definitely got better. And now I actually see the interest in like technical rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm like, it's kind of like, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to figure out the right line,
Yep.
carry your speed, and it's like, are you pedaling? Like where you're. One of the things that I'm still struggling with is pedal strikes. I pedal strike like no other, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, everyone's like, just time. Like you'll eventually figure out where your feet need to be as you're pedaling through like technical features.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fitzgerald was another one that kind of surprised me. If you haven't been there,
I was gonna go there last Saturday. Things came up, I didn't go. So check it out.
yeah, check it out. Best trail ever.
Yeah.
Do it counterclockwise.
Okay.
We did it clockwise.
Yeah,
and
one way sucks. I heard.
Yeah, I think counterclockwise is the way that we didn't do it. Mainly because we were trying to go up to this rock wall feature that was going to be better coming the other way, I think. But yeah, it was definitely climbing over a lot of technical rock stuff.
Okay.
So like, if you're interested in that stuff, I think Fitzgerald's a good session spot
Okay.
based on what we found. And like, again, I would have just never gone there if I didn't have a bike.
Yeah.
Just from what I know about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's tons out there.
Tons. And it's a kind of exciting. Like, there's so much within 2-hour drive of where we are. And
They're always adding.
always. I think I saw like they're adding 1.5 miles of trail every day on
I thought,
average.
yeah, it's either 1.5 miles to 2 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Insane. And we were talking the other day. It's like you can literally come here and ride. Like there's just the same trail, and like next week, that same trail is slightly different somehow.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, they're building a castle out there at G6.
yeah.
That's insane. We were trying to make fun, like the board meeting or whatever they had. Like, do you think like some guys like, you know what I've always wanted to do? I want to ride my bike through a castle. All right, done, Bill.
Done.
We got it.
Yeah. Like sure. It's like where can we fit this structure? Because that was just an open field.
Yeah.
I was surprised that there wasn't any development until now.
Right. Now, supposedly, what I've heard, I don't know like what, but on the other side, that's gonna be within the next year. They're gonna build the other side.
On the other side of the highway or on
Yeah.
the other? Oh,
Yeah.
that wouldn't surprise me.
And they're gonna build a tunnel.
Underneath.
Yeah. Dude, it's like there's so much money.
So much. And part of me is like, where else is it gonna go?
Yeah.
Right? Because at some point we are gonna run out of like space, at least in this area. So I think a lot of us are like, where's next? And as someone that's looking for property and trying to stay or lay down some roots in the area, I mean, I think all signs kind of point to pushing north into Missouri a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely like even the housing waves going to Bella Vista and Missouri for sure.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a place called Howler Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's getting ready to open in May. That place looks, I mean, that's a couple hours away, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and where is it close to? Is
I
it
think it's Springfield, Missouri.
that? Yeah.
I think
Is it
so.
4 or 5 hours?
I think it's 2.
2. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not bad.
No. The other place is Ironton, Missouri. That's out in St. Louis.
Okay.
But they're actually going to have a big like national enduro there. So I heard it's pretty gnarly. Like all rocks, like gnarly rocks. Big time.
I mean, that's great for the area, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The more the merrier. And yeah, I've been following Howler a good amount, mainly from all the trail features.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually reached out to them to see if they wanted any sort of content.
I was going to say, yeah.
I mean, they said they were interested, but I reached out to them like last fall.
Yeah.
They're still ways away, but seeing the progress that they've done recently, and given that it's like a month and a half away from opening day,
yeah.
I think they're getting in a good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the opportunity.
You have a pretty interesting story of how you got to where you are.
Yeah, it's non-linear, but I think that's life. It's not a straight line.
Yeah. I think you are. I always tell people this. It's if it's easy, it's not challenging enough. And you've done a lot to get where you're at, and it's pretty cool.
I mean, as far as I know, it's working out.
Yeah, to get rid of all your stuff and just move to the Czech Republic is insane.
Yes. No, hindsight, it was crazy. Well, long story short, my family is always like, why do you always leave these great, stable jobs? And I'm just like, I don't know. Opportunity knocks, and, as someone that is entrepreneurial, it's all about as many reps you can get, how many swings at bat you get, and I mean, so far it's worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you got to be open. A lot of people got to be open to change. Like, I moved here last summer. I've lived in Atlanta, and people were like, what's wrong with where you're from? It's like, it's not how I think of it like that.
Yeah. I didn't leave because there's an issue. It's just there's just more to life than Maryland.
Yeah.
It's like there's a pretty big world out there. And
Yeah.
that was kind of it. It's just like, you need perspective.
Yeah.
And to get that, you need to, get out of your comfort zone and just go places that you have no idea what can happen.
Yeah. I saw a little, I guess it was on TikTok. This guy's like, he was like, I bought a new pair of shoes. Well, yeah, I bought a new pair of shoes. The old ones were great and they were comfortable. And then when I put the new ones on, they weren't comfortable. And then basically saying things aren't going to be easy right away, and just everything's going to fall into your lap, But eventually they work and they become those comfortable shoes, and then you just go the cycle over.
A little break-in period.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think one of the biggest things that I still struggle with is time scale.
Yeah.
You want things to happen on a certain time interval, but it's just you can't do it. You can't force time. You need to give things time to do what they're supposed to. And I think a lot of times I find myself getting frustrated. It's just I want things to happen now.
Yeah, same.
And it's just you can't, because it's not just you orchestrating. It's there's a lot of moving parts, and you just because you're ready to go doesn't mean everything else is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm like, I need this done, or I need this done now. And I'm just like, wait a second. I didn't think of any of the logistics. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Same. My thing is am I gonna die, or is it gonna hurt? It's no. It's okay. We'll just give us a little more time. It's it's not urgent, right?
Yeah.
There's not anything that's super pressing. But yeah, impatience is definitely one of my weakest things. Just I still find myself just wringing myself into a knot. Just why? But it's just because you're trying to move a mountain on your own. It's just not gonna happen.
I have a bad. I don't know if I'm bad or the other people, but I'm always I'll email or text somebody about it's business related, and they don't get back to me in a couple of days. I'm like, is there an issue? Is your thing not working? They're like, huh? I was like, you didn't respond to my email. They're like,
I didn't see your email.
Can you give me a minute?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know I need to calm down about that, but also I'm like, I'm ready for the next position or next whatever, and I'm just I need your response and move on type thing.
It's you're the holdup, but it's it's unfortunate that I think we call it island time.
Yeah.
It's just people are pretty chill, and I think that was one of the jarring things coming from the Mid-Atlantic, East Coast, Northeast to the South. There's a whole different pace of work down here.
Yeah.
People just want to talk. I remember the first thing.
Oh my gosh.
Is at the grocery store. I'm just trying to get in and out, and they start with how are you doing? And, talk about the weather. I'm just get me in and out. And then eventually I was okay, I'm not going to win. With this attitude, it's you just got to engage.
Well, that's there was this guy that he worked with me in my 9 to 5, and I was like, hey, can we get this this moved? And he's like, well, let me tell you. I was like, is this story you're going to tell me involve moving this? And he's like, yeah. I was like, why don't we just move it then? He was like, God, what's this guy's problem?
Like, this is a prick.
I know he did.
What's the rush?
Yeah,
It's like,
that's exactly like. So the thing is, because he said, "What's the hurry, buddy?" So now that's like a thing that we have at our board. What's the hurry, buddy?
I gotcha. Yeah.
Well, all right, everybody, stop by 10th and Walton. Come see Anderson. Hire him for drone. Rent a one wheel. How many do you have? Like there?
6. We have 6 one wheels. Just
Okay.
come and try. Like, it doesn't cost you anything to try. I have a great track record of not sending people to the hospital. So all my customers love it. No one's gotten hurt. Just come by. It's not as bad as you think. And I think the moment you try it, you will probably rent one.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Yeah. Once again, thanks, and thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate it.